they're proud, though injured, and look at Becky Quick and say, "Oh, honey, you're like a club sandwich, huh?" Did he just fumble over talking about the Green New Deal and it became clear he didn't know what it was? Did he say that did he forget Obama's name? Do all the stuff he normally does? No, I want that guy in there, not someone who freaks out when their eye explodes.
By the way, this is not the first time that happened.
Oh, yeah,
Someone
sure,
reminded
State of the
me,
Union.
There's a fucking screenshot that happened during one of the State of the Unions under Obama. He's behind Obama, and his eyeball is bright red.
Well, in a way, that's more reassuring that this is his eyeball filling with blood is a semi-common occurrence for him. So, I mean, it would be disturbing if that was the first time that ever happened, and it happened to be during a nationally televised climate change forum. But I mean, he just has the same thing, the same condition that Le Chiffre had in Casino Royale.
Yeah, he just sees the diamonds embedded in his face.
Yeah, he did a live reenactment of Salvador Dali and Luis Buñuel's famous Un Chien Andalou live on stage. That actually happened. Good to see that. That's just a thing that no one's going to talk about.
Our leaders, they're either rapidly decomposing or they're hiding some sort of reptile exoskeleton.
How much does Kamala Harris just fucking suck? That,
I know,
like
seriously.
the guy, like she's supposed to be overtaking, he's literally just up there, like his body is falling apart, and he's like, my great friend who was president. You know his name. I don't know how to say it. Like, he's just up there like that, and she can't crack 5%. You fuck. Choke.
And Bernie's playing a game of horse with, like, a toucan on his shoulder for some reason.
Yeah, every day, Bernie is, like, learning how to do handstands and shit, even though he's 900 fucking years old. Kamala Harris is a choke artist. She fucking choked.
Yeah, more of that to come. But the article I have for this week is about some fans of the current president, Donald Trump. I'm talking, of course, about an outlaw motorcycle club known as the Bikers for Trump.
The baddest asses on the world. These guys could just murk Sam Crow in an afternoon.
The Sons of Authority.
This is a long profile in BuzzFeed by James Pogue, no relation to the band, I don't think, called "A Weekend with Bikers for Trump: American Rage," and it's a very long article, but I have gone through the whole thing. It's quite well done, and it really. He embeds with these people, and honestly, it confirms everything that we've said about who is the essential core Trump voter. Like, who are these people? What do they like? What do they want? And the answers are, it's the Bikers for Trump. I remember when we were driving into Pittsburgh, right outside in western Pennsylvania, just a stone's throw away from where United Flight 93 crashed into a field, or rather was shot down by a surface-to-air missile. Allegedly.
It was shot down by the Bikers for Trump when they just liked him as the real estate guy.
No, we saw one of their trailers hitched up at a gas station, and it was hitched to a big, one of those giant Ford F-150 pickup trucks with what looked like what appeared to be a dog driving it.
Yeah, it was a German Shepherd, of course.
Yeah.
The former governor of Illinois, the best governor of Illinois before the current one we have, J.B. Pritzker, Bruce Rauner, who kicked off his re-election campaign by drinking a glass of chocolate milk and saying, that shows that diversity is good. It's delicious. He was... In the last week of his campaign, to save his campaign, he put on his biker vest, drove his bike to a Trump rally, and just stood there in his biker gear and didn't speak. So this is a growing movement.
I remember seeing these guys first at the RNC rally in Cleveland when I went. The two things I noted: one, at one point, they all went away to where they all broke away from the scrum to go to where the cops were lined up for security and shook all their hands. Like you do when you're a badass biker. And then the leader spoke, and his main thing he talked about was how cool it was that biking is getting a good reputation now because people like Jay Leno ride motorcycles.
This was Chris Cox?
I'm assuming.
Okay, yeah.
So these guys, they're like the respectability politics bikers.
They are indeed, yeah.
I mean, the organization. I mean, I was a little dumbfounded to find it reading in this article. The Bikers for Trump is an organization that claims, I guess, or in this article it says they have about 100,000 members, which is bigger than the DSA.
You're not about 100,000. Are there 100,000 assholes with motorcycles who like Trump? Probably yes, but I don't think that they're in that group.
Well, okay, let's dive into this article. This is A Weekend with Bikers for Trump by James Pogue. So it sort of centers around the big July 4th rally that he had. Of course, that was like, this is Woodstock for the Bikers for Trump people. This is like the Sturgis rally, but, even more Trumpified. So I'm just going to dive in here. It says, on the patio of Harry's, the ground floor dive bar at the Harrington, a group of blue polo-clad Proud Boys entertained a group of wildly drunk ultra-right-wing Ukrainians who kept falling off their stools even as they yelled to the servers to bring them more beer.
I got friends in low places.
One Proud Boy was wearing a black iron cross as a necklace outside of his polo. I asked if it was what I thought it was, and he said, yeah, man, without any hesitation. It's from World War I, so it's not a racial thing, he went on. It's just that I'm German.
Where the Jews are lying and divide other races.
I think Trump is gay, he said, using the word in its pejorative, not descriptive sense. But we're conservatives, and we try to make an appearance at all the conservative events. This is fun for us. I was surrounded by a crush of people wearing Trump paraphernalia of all descriptions, from bikini tops to pink suits stenciled with the words gays for Trump as they ordered pitcher after pitcher of beer. So Harry's had become a MAGA safe space, and they were loving it. Going on here, it says, the bikers have coordinated, at least informally, with the Republican National Committee since before Trump's nomination. And they say they have accumulated the thanks of half a dozen Republican senators and governors for whom the bikers' zealous support was a key factor in close races. But the group's loyalty ultimately flows to the president, the man who drew most of its members into politics in the first place. And in response, Trump has shown them an apparently deep and genuine personal gratitude. No matter where I go, there's bikers, Trump once noted with wonder in his voice. And I'd ask my people, what are they all doing here? And they'd say, they're here to protect you, Mr. Trump.
I am protected by the strongest bikers, some of them even more handsome than Jack Teller.
He said, some of the guys I see out on the bikes are rough, he went on. Rough trade. And he goes,
rough trade?
No, he didn't say that.
Oh,
that's my interjection. This one fellow, Tom, he's from Finland. He's from Finland.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy. He has lots of friends who are sailors.
He's got a yellow handkerchief in his back pocket.
He's very stylish, leather everything.
There's the picture of Trump next to the bikers, and they all have patches on their jackets, and it's like, I hate doing the dishes. You know?
So so a lot of it, the guy who is apparently the leader of the Bikers for Trump, this guy Chris Cox. And it says here, Cox is tall and neatly groomed, extremely fit at 51, and speaks with a slow drawl and slight lisp. Though I had seen plenty of his videos online, in person he turned out to be a surprisingly imposing personal presence. It's nothing personal, he said, but I've dealt with a lot of these places, meaning media outlets. They'll frame us as crazy, violent vigilantes and whatnot, because what they need is to get all that traffic, he continued. Cox, who brought his bikers to form what he called a wall of meat against protesters trying to disrupt Trump's inauguration in January.
Meat.
And said that they served many knuckle sandwiches that day, now seems acutely aware that headlines framing the bikers as roughhousing vigilantes does not help his deepening relationship with Trump or the Republican Party, and he's become much more careful.
Isn't the wall of meat what Trump served to the women's college basketball champions?
Back in 2011, when he first started popping up in the news, Chris Cox was a semi-itinerant chainsaw artist with a wild beard, a frazzled mop of graying hair, the build of an ogre, and the deep tan of someone who had spent a great deal of time in the sun. He sold cypress logs carved into the shapes of dolphins and sea turtles, his specialty, from a big red truck that became a recognizable sight in the Charleston suburb of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm in the stupid business.
Well, here's the thing. It sounds like he's a itinerant chainsaw artist, but going on here, it says that he was born in Raleigh in 1968 and raised in Northern Virginia, where he got his first motorcycle in kindergarten. He has been riding ever since. Shortly after Cox finished high school, his family, having long roots in the Charleston area, moved back to Mount Pleasant. They occupied a genteel house and comfortable place in upper middle class South Carolina society. So again, we see here that like we've always said about like the bikers for Trump, these are guys who are dentists who roll around on like the tri-wheels on the weekends. You know, these are not sort of people on the fringes of society here. These are sort of middle-aged to elderly people kind of mean mugging on the weekends and getting a sort of a thrill out of riding a tractor trailer size Harley with like an onboard refrigerator to Sturgis.
They always ride the worst motorcycle you can find in Grand Theft Auto games, basically.
Jax Teller's dad was the head of the motorcycle organization. He was upper middle class.
Yeah, he made $20,000 a year in Charming, California.
The most you can make there.
That was above the median income.
Yeah. He was petit bourgeois.
All he had to do was murder 30 people.
Yeah. That's a pretty good ratio if you think about it.
He was tortured by Chinese triads 3 times.
Well, yeah.
But he closed a deal that was worth upwards of tens of hundreds of dollars.
The margins on all the Sun's gun deals were like 1.2% for having enough guns to send them and everyone they ever knew to prison for life.
So it said, despite this wild man persona of his chainsaw days, it did say his father was veteran Republican operative named Earl G. Cox, who worked for 4 presidents and had various roles under Ronald Reagan, including Director of Information and Public Affairs for the Departments of Labor and Agriculture. In 2013, during the government shutdown, Cox grew into a minor internet sensation known as Lawnmower Guy. That's one word away from being the Lawnmower Man, the submental gardener who is turned into a god by the internet and Pierce Brosnan. He brought his push mower up to D.C. and cut the unkempt grass around the Lincoln Memorial. Looking a bit unkempt himself and sounding aw shucks earnest in interviews,